Okay, good morning all. So we'll be starting the session within 5 minutes. Ilavarsan sir,
Good morning, ma'am. Can you
shall we
hear me?
start in 5 minutes, sir? As actually the participants are joining now, we'll wait for another 5 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sir, thank you. So actually regarding the afternoon session, you have to give a feedback in your portal and you have to attend the test and also video feedback of some participants. Whoever is willing can just give the video feedback. But actually, the ACT officials in the coordinators group, they have informed that feedback filling, that is in the participants portal, you can fill your feedback at actually after 4 o'clock. Actually, we planned first we'll start with participants feedback, but naturally, since the officials are saying it will be up only by 4 o'clock, whenever it is ready, we'll be doing that. Before that, we'll finish off the test and the feedback recording. According to the time they are going to announce, we'll follow the schedule. So till now, the afternoon session, the schedule is not actually fixed, but the activities are fixed. You have to fill the feedback in your portal, then feedback will be recorded and there will be a test. These three are the things that are going to be scheduled in your afternoon session. So that is the schedule for the afternoon. And also regarding your attendance, actually already yesterday itself we tried. We have actually uploaded all the attendances in the portal. After submitting only, we got the uh, message that the token has expired. Then immediately we have message to the officials. Many coordinators are facing the same problem. They said it will be rectified today. So as soon as the problem is rectified, we'll be uploading. Then you can see your attendance in the portal. So anyhow, we'll be completing side by side. Actually, today the other organizing committee members are going to do that. So there won't be any problem. As soon as the portal is ready, we'll be uploading and you can upload your feedback. That is the schedule for today. Morning session, we have a speaker. Then again, 12 o'clock also we have one more speaker. And afternoon, we are going to do test feedback and that is feedback in the portal and feedback recording. This is our actually schedule. Good morning, all. Today's morning session is on cyber security, identity, and access management. The speaker of the session is Mr. Ilavarasan Rajendran, Senior IAM, Technical Architect, Cape Gemini, Australia Private Limited, Sydney. He is an enterprise security professional having overall 50 plus years of experience, that is IT experience, and 30 plus years of experience in providing solutions in identity and access management, identity governance and administration, federated single sign-on, SSO, RBAC, role-based access control, compliance and auditing, custom-built security and technology frameworks. Welcome, sir, for the session.
Thank you all. Thank you, St. Joseph College of Engineering, the FTP committee. Am I audible?
The sound is very low.
Is it better now?
It's okay.
Okay. So, yeah, let me walk through few scenarios, and I have prepared a couple of slides. Just explain what is identity and how we can relate with the real world scenarios, how the identity and access are being used in organizations and in the enterprise and some other areas. Let me share my screen. Is my screen visible? Is it visible?
Sir, yes, sir, but volume is very low, sir.
Okay. Is it better now?
Okay, sir, thank you.
Okay. So if there is any interrupt, any disturbance, just let me know. Yeah. So everybody else, please go on mute. I will start. No. Okay. So cybersecurity is the huge subject that includes a lot of other parameters and towers. Like now here we will just walk through the identity and access management and how it is part of the cybersecurity. Let's first see what is identity. In the IT world or in the technical terms, an identity could be a person or a computer or organization or any entity. When I say the person identity, so let's walk through the person identity in this session. So we'll not see much about the application identity, device identity. It's a huge subject. When I say the person identity, say for example, if you take a real scenario, you are creating an account in Gmail, signing up with your first name, last name, and you set up your password, which means you are creating an identity in Gmail repository. So Gmail have some repository, the user repository or the identity repository, whatever you can call it. So you are creating an identity and you are providing an identity, you are giving a consent or authorizing Gmail to hold your identity information or personal information in their database or repository. So this is a real example of our person identity. So the value.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yep.
Sir, the volume is very low, sir.
Let me try to increase my volume in.
Sorry, sir.
That is fine. This is the first time I'm trying in Google Meet. So do you know anything that I can increase my volume over here in the?
Okay, is the volume okay for all the participants?
Can I go ahead?
Yes, yes, sir.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We can proceed, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
Let me share the screen again. Okay, so hope you all see my screen. Yeah, so the value of identity is very important in the current IT world or in the social world. And I'm hearing some background noise. Can everyone go on mute? Yeah, thank you. So the value or the importance of identity is very important in the IT world, and having a lot of threats and attacks happening in the cyber world. So it's very important. And like I said in the previous slide, so when you are creating an account in Google or Facebook or Twitter or whatever social media, or in any other websites, so you are providing your identity information to that organization and giving a consent that to hold your information on their database. So it's very important for organization like banks. And if you take an example as a bank as an organization, the customers who are holding an account in that bank, uh, uh, the bank's responsibility is to secure the customer's identity. So that is a real example of a bank. And we have created an identity, but how to protect it? So there are market trending tools to handle or to protect the identities on the organization premises or enterprise premises. So there are different protocols used that we will see in the next slides. So the famous protocols like or widely used protocols are SAML and OAuth, and we will see the single sign-on and all other features of identity and access management in the coming slides. So when we say identity, how are we using the identity in the real world? So the identity is used to log into some application. So that is called authentication, that you are proving that who you are, and it includes the authorization as well. So to what resource or to what application that you are entitled to. Say for example, if a student is accessing the college application or the college payroll application or something, the student is entitled to see only, he can log in to the payroll application, that is authentication, and he is entitled to access only for reading some library contents or paying a fees. So only those contents he is authorized or he is entitled to access. But the same application is being accessed by the CEO or the chairman. He is again authenticating, login, and then he is authorized to see all the tabs or all the links or all the applications, all the features of the applications, like how the application, the payroll application or the college application website or portal that he is logged in is connected to the Anna University or AACTU. So all the relevant information he can visit or modify or edit or whatever he can do, because he has a full authorization to access those applications. So this is a simple example for authentication and authorization. So for this authentication and authorization, you are using your digital identity that is stored in the college identity repository. The identity repository could be a database like Oracle database or SQL database, or it could be a Active Directory or any directory or any LDAP directory that the organization handles. So identity is a digital identity of a person and how he is using the identity to log into the application, like authentication and authorization. And let's see how we are managing these identities. So for example, take an example of college, how college is managing the students' identities and the employees or the faculty's identities or staff member, non-staff member identities in the college premises or college uh, identity repository. And how the applications are interacting and how the identity and access management tool is managing the application and identities and its authorization and authentication. So like I said, when we say it is authorization, then when authentication, you are proving that who you are, and authorization to which entitlement or application that you are entitled to access to, and then when you are accessing the time or the location from where you are logging to that application. So I will explain the context conditions, when or timings related stuff in the coming slides. So there are different parameters to provide a authorization. Say for example, like I said, the college chairman or CEO is logging to an application, and he has a full control. So that is defined based on the role. The role of the person who is logging in is CEO. And say, for example, the faculty, the teaching staff is logging to their application. The role is the faculty. The student is logging to the application. The role is student. So based on the rules, the authorization is defined. And this is called RBAC, role-based access control. So based on the rules, so the application is providing an authorization or disabling the features in the application. When we say attribute-based access control, say for example, it's more fine-grained compared to the role-based access control. The student is trying to log into the application, so he is allowed to log in only from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or during the college timing, the business hours. So that talks about the attribute-based access control. Though he is a student, he is allowed to access only on particular timings. And the policy-based access control is something different. That we write a policy or rule. Okay, if he is a student and he is a current student and he is a final year student, then provide this information and allow him to access this particular feature or application or link, whatever in the application. So this is more policy-based like access controls. Multiple combinations. These all are coarse-grained access controls. There are a few more fine-grained access controls as well that are too technical. So I am not covering those fine-grained access controls in this session. Moving next. So how are we managing the identity? Say, for example, you need a tool or software to manage these identities and their access policies or whatever in the premises. Let's take an example of college. Colleges, 7,000 students and 100 staff members. So it's very less number of personalities that can be managed without a tool, or manually you can manage it. Let's take an example of bank or ICICI Bank or HDFC Bank, and just think about their customer identities. All the customers are the account holders, and the ICICI Bank is responsible to maintain its own employees' identities as well as its customers' identities in their repository. So the employee might have different authorization to different web application portal, and the customer has authorized to access the online banking or transactional or retail banking or whatever application they're entitled to. So all these applications are very difficult to, or identities are difficult to manage as a manual process. And no one, even ICICI Bank is, having some 1,000 employees, they can't sit and do opening an account manually and managing their identities, how they are accessing and how many customers are accessing from which region they are accessing, whether it is an attacker or it is a real customer. It's very difficult without a tool. So in the market, in the IT market, in cybersecurity, there are many tools to handle this identities and the access management. Some examples are SailPoint, Ping Identity, Okta, and few more. Okay, so identities we have covered, authentication covered, and authorization. We know now what is authorization. And identity and access management, we know how to handle with the tool. Let's take an example. Let's see single sign-on now. What is single sign-on? Let's take an example of college again. There are a few applications, the payroll application or the library application, or take some other few more applications. Assume that there are 5 applications. So the student or the faculty is trying to access one application by opening the Google Chrome or Firefox, Internet Explorer, whatever browser it call it, trying to log in on one application, and then he needs some information from another application. He is trying to log into other application. So he should have another username and password for the second application. And then he needs some more information to get it from the third application. Again, he has to log into the third application. It's very tedious process, and remembering 5 credentials, 5 username and 5 passwords are per application. Assume there are 10 applications. It's very tedious, and storing the credentials and password as a text in somewhere. So attackers easily take the information and make use of those credentials and do whatever they want. It's insecure. So there, the single sign-on got evolved. When you log into an application, the first application, the identity management tool that is deployed in the college premises, it creates an authentication session and sets some cookie value in the browser, saying that this user is already authenticated. So allow him to access the next application without letting him to log in again and again and again. So there's a single sign-on. So the identity management tool takes care of this authentication session. So the next application is being opened in the same browser as a next tab by the employee, and he doesn't need to log in again because the identity management tool validates the session. This is the valid user. Let him allow to log in. So this is the single sign-on concept. Okay, so now single sign-on is working in the premises, on premises, like in the college premises, the faculty is trying to access 5 number of applications. Where comes the federation? So the good example is, say for example, I am owning the college and I can deploy a Active Directory or a database to hold or to maintain my student identities or faculty identities or whatever non-faculty identities. I have the capacity to maintain the servers, to invest money on the servers, and take care of the security of the identities of my students or employees. This is one case. So for example, I'm starting a new college I don't have money to invest to maintain the servers. I can't keep it in my on premises. Instead of that, I'm relying with some other third party to just validate my identity. Say, for example, I'm assuming as a college founder, my students, my faculties, most of them have an account with Google or Facebook or Twitter or social media or anything. That is for the current situation also. He doesn't need to assume also. That's for the current situation. Most of the social uh, websites or organizations have collected our information already. So what I will do as a college chairman, I will talk to the Google CEO or Google team just to have an agreement that for my website authentication, I will have a federation with your identity repository and then get the authentication session back. So this is the federation with my on-premises with the Google identity repository or Facebook identity repository just for authentication. So this is called a federated single sign-on. So here the identity provider and service provider concept comes. So when you access an application in the browser, the service provider is who is owning the application, and the identity provider is, for example, Google, who is actually authenticating your identity, or Facebook, or whatever identity provider that is being set in the identity management tool. As a this is when we deploy an identity management tool in on-premises or enterprise, we will configure who is the identity provider, who is a service provider. So that is called identity provider, service provider. And how the single sign-on workflow, that's a bit technical, but I can't skip this. How the single sign-on workflow. So the user is trying to access the browser and the application. The service provider application is called your payroll application. And then the single sign-on, the service provider application is expecting some authentication and it is relying with some identity provider. It forwards the request to the identity provider. Hey, this user does not have an authentication session. Just ask him to authenticate and give me the authentication session. Then I will allow him to. I will just render my application page. So this is how this is SP initiated service provider initiated single sign-on workflow. And there is another one. This is a sequence that second sequence diagram. Again a bit technical. So between the identity and service provider transaction, there is a protocol being used called SAML, the Security Association Markup Language, version 2.2. So the Security Association Markup Language wraps the content from the service provider and then sends to the identity provider, and the identity provider authenticates and wraps the authenticated session, encrypt it and sign it back and send it to service provider. So in the background, so this is how it happens. Like I told, the SP initiated or service provider initiated identity single sign-on, there is a IDP initiated single sign-on workflow. So say for example, you are logging into your machine. Take an example of college again. The staff member is logging to the Windows machine. He has already logged in through the Windows machine, which is already in the network. So the authentication is already created. And then again, he is trying to access an application. So that application uses the already authenticated Windows authenticated session and then will not challenge the employee to log in again. So that is again called identity provider initiated SSO workflow. So these are the protocols or the federated identity protocols I was explaining. SAML 1.1 and now SAML 1.1 is used very less scenarios. Like SAML 2 is widely used now, and OAuth 2. OAuth 2 is the advanced one where the mobile applications are being part of the identity management. So the OAuth 2 is the right protocol. And there is OpenID Connect protocol and WSFED, WSTRS. These are the widely used protocols for identity authentication and authorization. Again, the security assertion markup language, like I told, it wraps the information and sign it, encrypt it, and then sign it, and then sends to identity provider. And same way, identity provider also encrypt, sign the content. It's all XML format content. The SAML protocol is using, and this is how the transaction happens to avoid the hacking or attacking of an identity session. Say, for example, if I'm an attacker, if I know what protocol is being used, if I know the way how to hack the session, I can intermediate this transaction between the identity provider and service provider and take a session, the authenticated session, and use the same session in my browser and do the banking transaction and steal the money. So that is where the identity is very important in the current world. This is again a bit technical flow, like how the SAML is interacting with the authorization server. When I say authorization server, the identity management tool. The identity management tool acts as an authorization server. It also does the authentication job. What is OAuth? OAuth is another protocol that is being used for only authorization. Say, for example, the user is logging in, it is authenticated, but the user has to view some application or the links based on these rules. So that is where the OAuth comes in. So the authorization server or the identity management tool generates a token, sends the token. The token could be any string, it could be in any format, it could be a nonsense characters. So the authorization server creates the token, just a key to the application, and the application will use that key to do the multiple transactions. So that is where the OAuth protocol being used. And on top of that, OpenID Connect protocol also used to have the authenticated user session. So the OAuth and OpenID Connects are widely used mostly in the banking transactions or banking applications. Let's say, for example, the real scenario, you are purchasing something in Amazon or Flipkart. When you are checking out for the payment, you click payment, and then it redirects to you to the third-party applications like BillDesk or Paytm or Airtel mobile payment wallet or whatever. These are all the third-party providers or third-party clients or OAuth clients. We can tell it in the technical terms. So these third-party clients says, I am going to do the banking transaction on behalf of you. I will take so and so percentage of charges to complete this transaction. So that is for each transaction you might have seen in the real world. There are some percentage, 0.18% when you are doing the IRCTC transaction. If you use credit card or net banking, the third-party provider between the Amazon or your application and the bank takes some money. Also, the service is they are doing the banking transaction on behalf of you. So they are already registered with the banks. that I am a valid third-party client. So I will do the transaction on behalf of any users from Amazon or Flipkart. So let's take an example, BillDesk. BillDesk is a co-auth client that is already registered in the bank premises and the bank identity management tool. So the third-party client will forward the request to the bank, and the bank will show you the banking, the authentication page or the login page or internet banking login page. The bank says, okay, I will first authenticate the user and then give the control to you. You take the consent from the user, then I will complete my transaction. So the bank get the authentication information, credential from the user, and then give the control back to the session or what session token back to BillDesk. Okay, I am done the authentication. Now you talk to your user and authorize the payment. Then the third party client will show you this is what currency, this is the currency I'm going to take it from your account. This is the amount, and this is the region you are accessing, and this is the remark for what you are transacting, and shall I proceed or not? So you are giving a consent to the third party client. Okay, take this much amount for this transaction from my account. So that is where the OAuth and OpenID Connect uses. So the OAuth just holds the authorization of your consent in the token, and the OpenID Connect holds the authentication session or authentication information for whom I am doing the transaction. For builders, the builder should know for which user I am doing the transaction. So those identity informations are getting stored in the OpenID Connect protocol. So this is where all this OAuth and OpenID Connects are being used. I'm moving to next slides because we have already covered these concepts. So the WStrust protocols are mostly used to protect the web services in the identity management world. And this is again an interesting topic. When you do a banking transaction, you might have seen or experienced that you get an additional authentication factor like OTP, one-time password in the email or in your mobile phone, or you might have got a push notification that I'm doing this transaction, shall I go ahead? You will get a approve or deny button or some two buttons to decide your transactions. So this is to have additional security for your transactions using your identity information. So this is widely used in the banking sectors. So the single layer authentication, like without OTP, without any challenging questions, you might have experienced. First factor, after you give the credentials, you will get the second factor of authentication, asking for what is your mother's maiden name, what was the car you drove first, so something, or the OTP. That is called multi-factor authentication. So based on the organization decision or security level, the organization can decide how many levels of authentication that the user has to be go through. Widely used are two-factor authentication, but in some transactions, we might use 3 levels of authentication. So this is what I have covered, like multi-factor authentication, dual factor, 3-factor, whatever. And it includes not only the OTP through mobile, OTP to email. It also includes your face recognition, biometric, and YubiKey, some hot tokens. There are a lot of other concepts involved. Okay. Why adaptive authentication? What is adaptive authentication? Say, for example, user will get bored, keep on providing the multi-factor authentication. I'm doing from this laptop. I'm doing the banking transaction from this laptop. So why it is asking the multi-factor authentication again and again? So there comes the adaptive authentication. Say, for example, the device that you are regularly using will be registered in the identity management tool. Okay, this is the user, and not only the device, what time I'm accessing the application. Say, for example, on every month from 1st to 5th, I will log into my banking application from this laptop to do some transaction, pay the rent, pay bills. Mostly from 1 to 5 every month, I access the application, the banking application. So these informations, and from where I'm accessing these applications, say for example, I'm accessing these applications on this laptop on every month 1 to 5 from India, and especially from Chennai, Tamil Nadu, or whatever location. So these informations are getting stored in the identity management, and the identity management tool creates a pattern for your authentication behavior. Say, for example, I'm accessing this application and then I'm traveling to Sydney for some official purpose. The application doesn't know, or the identity management, or the bank doesn't know that I am traveling for business purpose. So after one day, I'm accessing the same banking application from Australia. Though I'm accessing the same application from the same device, it compares the location that I was used earlier, and immediately it pushed the second factor, or to just validate your security. So from the banking standpoint, the identity manager thinks you might be a hacker or attacker trying to steal my account from Australia. So for additional security, with all these parameters, attributes, the identity management tool creates a pattern and uses for the second factor or third factor or multi-factor authentication. So that is called adaptive authentication or risk-based authentication. So based on the risk, there is a score. So based on the context, it creates a score and then calculates the risk. And based on the risk valuation, the identity management tool challenge the user for the second factor or third factor authentication. Okay, so this is to have the credentials encrypted to avoid the attacks and protect from some hackers in the identity management tool. There are a lot of techniques for the encryption. That will be a bit technical, so I'm not covering those things. And the session management, like I told, when the user is trying to log in multiple applications in the same browser, it handles the session. The identity management tool is handling the session of the authenticated user for certain timings. So after that particular person is leaving from the machine or laptop, the other person who is sitting in the same laptop should not access the application with the previous user login. So again, that should be also protected. So as soon as the user is leaving from the machine, the user can log out. If the user is logging out from the one application, so the identity management tool will clear all the authenticated session for all applications that are integrated. So that is one thing for single logout and a single sign out. Also, the identity management tool have some expiry timing for the authenticated session. So it automatically expires. And that way it avoids the attacks. So in the single sign-on or authentication and authorization, so we are using cookies in the browser, and all the transactions between the single sign-on or OAuth is all encrypted and digitally signed. So that is what this slide talks about. And the social login, like I told, so I'm an organization, I can't hold the identity repository on my premises. So I am federating with Google or Facebook. You might have experience in many of the website. As soon as you are opening the application or website, there'll be a pop-up like login with Facebook and login with Google, because they have already collected your information and hold your information. So you can log in and then make use of the current application, what you are accessing. This is the process flow, bit technical, how the social login works, but you might have already experienced these informations. So this is again the federated single sign-on. So for the single sign-on, whatever transactions the user is making from the browser, all HTTP and HTTPS, not HTTP mostly, HTTPS. And in the background, it uses OAuth 2.0 and SAML 2.0.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, voice is not audible.
Is it better now?
And now it is better, sir. As you talk, actually, it is going very low, sir.
I'm sorry. My mic is very bad. So is it better now?
It's okay now, sir. At least
Okay.
once in a while you check in the chat, sir. They are actually putting.
Oh, okay. I am
Okay.
sorry. Yeah.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you, sir. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So all the banking transaction or single sign-on transaction that you are doing from the browser includes this HTTPS protocol, SAML 2.0 protocol, and OAuth 2.0 and OpenID Connect protocols. With all these transactions, it is all encrypted and digitally signed for better security. Okay, so how the identity and access management tool they are working in on-premises. So it works in the hybrid environment, like whatever service the organization is holding on premises, and it works as a completely cloud solution with multiple identity repository. Say for example, if you take an example of bank, so the bank can hold two different databases or two different identity repositories, one for their employees and one for their customers. So these two or multiple identity repositories can be implemented or can be used by the identity management tool. So that is what this slide talks about. And multiple access protocols. So whatever identity management tool I have explained, like SailPoint, Ping Identity, Okta, RSA, and Micro Focus, NetIQ. There are plenty of identity management tools. So they all use the standard protocols like SAML, OAuth, HTTPS, and the standard protocols. So I think I am done. If there is a question, I can answer. I'm seeing the chat. Um, any practical demo? Practical demo could be in another session because it's a wide subject, and I'm actually working in the client side and not entitled to share any content of my current working environment. Uh, maybe we can have another session later with the demo users or demo environment. Any queries? In other countries, who would be the bank transaction? Um, no, in other countries, I don't understand the question, Jagadish. In every country, different banks are available, and they have their own identity management tools on their on premises, or if they don't want to hold, or if they don't want to hold all the servers on their premises, they will go on with Google Cloud, AWS, or Azure, and get the machines from the or the servers from the cloud, and they'll use it. I think that is your question.
Sir,
Yeah.
previous speaker had told me that in other countries there will not be any SMS-based transactions. He told me. That's why I'm asking regarding this question. In our country, we usually depend on SMS-based transactions like providing
OTP.
OTP.
Correct. So in other countries, as far as I have seen, they use the push notification. Say, for example, you might have seen in the Google Play Store Microsoft Authenticator or Google Authenticator. So that gives the push notification that I'm doing this transaction, approve or reject. You'll get some two buttons in your mobile phone, smartphone. So that I've seen in some countries, and in some countries they use email OTP. But the transactions are not secure as secure as India in other countries. So in other countries, like in Australia here, I'm very rarely seeing the second factor authentication. And in Denmark, when I was working, and I again very rarely seen the second factor authentication. But in India, it's a huge population and huge transactions. So, and there are a lot of factors for insecure transactions. So we are getting this multi-factor authentication everywhere in India transactions.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. How can we strengthen another query? How can we strengthen individual access control in MFA? Individual access control. I don't understand this question, Anil Pawar. When we say, for example, you are doing the banking transaction, and if you want to set up a second factor authentication, and there are two different options. For example, the bank can decide so what second factor or what third factor or multi-factor that I need to challenge to the logged in customer or my customer. So over there, you will not get a control for second factor or third factor, because if you get a control, you will simply skip or you might disable the second factor for your transaction. For some application, you might have a control that you can set up a second factor as a OTP or second factor as a challenging question like what is your mother's maiden name, what is your first school, what is your first car or something. Or you can set up your second factor authentication as a push notification like I told, smartphone application. So mostly banking application or banking service provider don't let the customer decide the type of second factor and set up their second factor or third factor or multi-factor authentication. Hope I have answered this question. Any other queries? Mr. Swapnil, are you trying to ask something? Can you type something in the chat? Mr. Swapnil?
Sir, I have one question.
Yeah.
Sir, in one of the study you have shown when you are entering the person is asking either Facebook or Gmail login. I want to small explanation because in education purposes like entering into our Swayam or something or any online if you want to read materials, immediately the link is going to the same page what you have shown like that only. Then that is not secured, sir.
No, it doesn't mean that it is not secured because it is the application or the educational application, say for example, is not holding the identity repository on its own. It say for example, I am running the educational institution and I am providing a content in the internet. Okay, so I am a small vendor. I cannot hold my servers or cannot maintain my users. Say for example, students accessing from St. Joseph College and SSN College or some other colleges. I can't hold everybody's identities on my premises or servers because I need huge number of servers and need money. So what I will do as a small institution, I will just have a federation with single sign on, federation with Facebook or Gmail. So there is an agreement in between, okay, saying that my content is being used by multiple students. I can't validate because I have to avoid the attackers as well to my online contents. So what I need is I need to authenticate somehow who are watching or accessing my online content. So what I'm relying with Facebook or Google is, because I need valid user, can you do the authentication on behalf of me for my viewers or content viewers? So you have an agreement with these two giants identity providers. So they will provide you, okay, use this link, my Facebook icon or Google icon link in your website. Ask your user or you immediately redirect the users to my page. I will authenticate. So in that way, instead of holding servers or maintaining in your premises as a small vendor, you are investing more money on that is very, if you compare having an agreement with Google for identity management, it's very less. So most of the organization don't waste money on investing servers to maintain the identities or securing the identities on their premises. Simply they pay some 1,000 or 10,000 lesser amount than maintaining the server to the Google and Facebook to get the users get authenticated. So it doesn't mean it is not secure. It is not insecure. It is secure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I have another question.
Yeah.
Yesterday, one speaker explained about website hacking and everything.
Yeah.
The thing is, now CBSE, everything now they're uploading their certificates, the 10th standard certificates. Now they started. in data logger, like something
Yeah.
centrally they plan to maintain.
Yeah.
Then that is also possible to hack now, sir, because throughout India we are maintaining in a digital
It is
locker.
possible. It is possible in India. Even I can steal your Aadhaar card also. So it is possible.
No, sir.
It,
I'm asking about 10th standard certificates. Now the CBSE started to do it.
okay.
From last year, the
Yeah.
certificate, one certificate will be there in a digital locker.
Yeah.
So it will come to colleges also in future. 10th
Yeah.
standard means so.
It,
Centrally, we are planning to throughout India. This is a safe, a digital locker safe, and even all over Aadhaar based and every even driving license in one like a locker.
correct.
Yesterday they explained anything is possible by the hackers to do it. Okay,
Yeah.
ethical hacker they won't do it. Purposely, who want to blackmail us or something, they
Steal
will.
the identity. I can do it. Yeah. This is actually the government has to make sure this certificate or whatever information they are collecting from us uh, to be maintained in the proper server in the secure manner with a secure protocol with multiple or instead of 128-bit encryption, they should use 1024 or 2048 RSA bit encryption. The more that encryption algorithm increases or bits increases, and the more it's secure. So they have to invest. The government has to invest more on securing these repositories. Actually, otherwise, it's there is a potential possibility the hacker can do the hacking.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Aadhaar card also has biometric log. Can it also be compromised by intruders? It is possible, Kirit Joshi, but how it is possible, I'm not quite sure. But if it has a very lesser bit encryption, the biometric can also be stolen. And one more thing, most of the cases, we don't care about our identities. We simply give our identities everywhere. Say, for example, if we are going to purchase some clothes in Big Bazaar or Max or DMart or whatever place we are going, they simply ask us, so what is your mobile number and what is your name? We'll simply fill some form and we sell our identity for free. So you will get n number of messages. People say, okay, I will get the reward points. I'll get some offer later by the PVR or Big Bazaar. So what is wrong in that? But indirectly, you are selling your identity to some other third party. They can and mostly we don't read the content when we are signing up some form and being in the counter in the line, and we'll simply tick all the tick and then give all authorize, and then give all the consent, and then finally the representative will point you, sir, please sign over here, and then you'll sign it and then come back. But you will not read how much authorization, how much consent we are giving or providing to that owner to sell our identity. So that's a practical scenario now. And does the customer ID is secure or only the password is encrypted? Naresh Kumar, with respect to the identity and access management, all the flows, the username and password both are encrypted. And not only the username and password, additional information that the identity repository holds. And the identity repository does not hold only the username and password. It holds your first name, last name, your phone number, location, address, communication address, are all set up your information. So it any more queries?
Hello.
Yeah, please.
So, like whenever a hacker hacks into a bank account and
Yeah.
like if he makes any transactions,
Yeah.
why is it not possible like to track that money? Like sometimes the people say that if you give away your credentials, people will make transaction through your account.
Yeah. So it's possible. It is happening also. For example, the banks. If you take an example, ICICI Bank. Okay, ICICI Bank relies on some software company. Okay, these are all my applications. These applications are already protected in my identity management tool with all this encryption algorithms, RSA 2068 or 1028 24 or 128 bit or whatever. Okay, the maximum security. And my users are across the world accessing the applications. I need a security and to monitor these attacks or hackers or intruders. So the software companies has a security operation centers. So they will keep on watching the application transactions and the failures and multiple tries, multiple login tries, or this intruders or attackers. There will be a display, the big display in their security operations center in the software companies. So immediately, the security operations center guy who is monitoring these attacks will send a note to the bank, or they also have a control to the bank applications or servers to immediately kill or expire the particular user's authentication session. So that, say for example, the hacker has stolen the account or authentication session, and he is trying to get the money for 1 lakh rupees in the first transaction, and if he is trying to access the same account to get additional money, then he can't do it. But we can't completely avoid this situation, but at least to some extent, the bank can avoid in this kind of scenarios. So there is a possibility, and it happens. There is a feature in identity management tool and in the industry as well to kill the authentication session and track all this thing. This is again part of cyber security. Any other queries?
Participants, any other queries you have? Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your informative and insightful session. Thanks a lot for your time and the valuable speech. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you, FTP committee, the St. Joseph College, and the participants. I'm sorry, my voice was a bit low during
It's
the
okay,
session.
sir. No problem. No problem.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Actually, the feedback link will be posted in the next session. When you join at 12, we'll be posting the feedback link for this. And also for the afternoon session, as I already informed in the morning, you have feedback. That is in the portal, you have to enter the feedback, and also you have to record the feedback. That is, we'll be just recording the feedback from some of the participants. Those who are willing, just kindly be volunteer to give the feedback. And finally, we'll be having a test. So the order is not actually decided. The main reason is in AICTE portal, the participants can give the feedback only after 4, it seems. They have informed that. So whenever the portal is up, we'll be asking the participants to fill the feedback. So, but anyhow, the activities are going to be, you have to just fill the feedback, that is test, and then finally you have to give a recorded feedback. And some 10 minutes validatory function. That is what
Hello.
actually. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm hearing.
Ma'am, I asked to you,
Ah,
ma'am. Actually, my participant ID is two. One AS 128 or AS 160. So
Sir, actually,
please
no.
confirm me which one is my ID.
Actually, that is not a issue, sir, because those IDs we have given only for our verification. We won't load it in the portal.
Oh,
Portal, your name will.
okay, ma'am. And then second question is that.
Ah,
Ma'am, second question is my attendance is not uploaded in Atal portal, ma'am.
sir, that is what I'm trying to say that. Actually, yesterday we have uploaded all the attendances. While submitting, we encountered a problem. That is why actually it is not uploaded. That also we have informed. So whenever it is getting ready, we'll be uploading. You just make sure that your name is there in the Excel sheet. If it is there, anytime or whenever the portal is up, we'll be uploading your attendance. So if it is there in
Okay,
the
ma'am.
Excel sheet, then there is no problem, absolutely no problem for you. If it is not there, kindly inform us. We'll verify it and we'll change it.
Ma'am, what is test
Ma'am,
timing?
today feedback link is
Actually, that is what the test timing is not decided because the thing is they are actually saying only after 4 you can enter the feedback in the portal. So depending upon the time they are going to give for feedback entry, we'll be changing the test timing. But we have decided these are all the things we have to do in the afternoon session. But we can't specify the time because of the portal time. That is, they may change the time. If suppose they are telling the portal is up by 3 o'clock, you can do first feedback, then you can go for test. But depending upon the situation, they are telling we are going to follow the instructions given by ACT. Any other doubt?
ma'am, today's session feedback link.
Actually, next session will start at 12 o'clock. Afternoon session, as usual, will be starting at 2:30.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, my name is in Excel sheet, ma'am, but column F and H is missing, ma'am.
Name is there in Excel sheet. Then
Column F and H is missing in that, ma'am. What to do?
actually, ma'am, actually in portal your name will be there. All your details will be coming. Only we have to enter whether you are present or absent. So don't worry about the remaining details. If your name is there, it's okay. It is only for verification we are posting the Excel.
Okay, ma'am.
Achha, one more thing, madam.
Yes, sir.
Apart from like say physically uploading the attendance, just I want to confirm like say since I'm like say present for all the sessions,
Yes.
that is I mean there in your record or not, because I have been present for all the sessions.
Yes, sir.
So I hope that that's not an issue from our side, like say I mean any like say the marking or something.
That's what, sir. Actually, what about the Excel sheet, sir? Your name is there.
My name is there.
Then no problem at all, sir. Surely no problem at all. If your name is there.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes,
Madam, can we leave session, madam?
yes, sir.
Can we leave for this session?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can leave.
Hello. At what time, madam? For next session?
Next session, you have to join by 12, sir.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
12 you are
Ma'am,
having
can you share the feedback link once again, ma'am, for this session?
Actually, this session, we didn't share it. Only at 12, we'll be sharing it, sir.
Okay, ma'am, fine. No issues, ma'am. Thank you.
Madam,
Okay, okay, sir.
actually,
Yes, sir.
this is Anand Donald. I have already received the ID as AS173, the last ID. Okay, So, madam, my name is not there in the, but my name is there in this, but the Excel sheet, the name is not there in the participant's ID. But my attendance, everyday attendance, my name is there.
Sir, actually, what is your name, sir? You just send a message, sir. I'll look
Ma'am,
into
I've already given you, I've already sent it the message you right now also. I've already.
Sir, your name, sir?
Anand Donald.
Your name is there? No?
Yeah, my name is there. My name is there. But in the participant list, in the Excel sheet of participant, I'm not talking about the attendance. I'm talking about the participant list, ma'am.
Okay. Attendance is very important, sir. That you just make a look.
No, my feedback is there. I'm attending all the sessions, ma'am. My feedback is there, and I've already.
I know, sir. I know you are attending. Actually, I am sitting for all time and watching all of you. So no problem. I'm watching all.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Madam, the feedback link will be posted in the next session, or what?
Yes, sir. The feedback will be posted in the next session.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay.
Okay. So if you have any queries, you message me. I'll definitely reply you. So don't worry. If any issues you tell us, we'll do it. Definitely we'll do it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, kind of. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.